Hey guys, here we are with my official prediction video of Kell Brook fighting Errol Spence. Without taking into account, excuse me, without taking into account like intangibles, right? And only talking about boxing skills. Well, first let's talk about intangibles, right? People are talking about Kell Brook having problems coming down from the weight, Kell Brook having problems with his eye. And those being in favor of Errol Spence, right? An intangible, right? You can't put your name, or like you can't quantify what all that's going to mean, right? You can only tell like once it happens in the ring, and whether he comes out with that excuse or not at the end of the fight. And the intangibles in favor of Brook are it being in the UK, meaning that there's a likelihood that he's going to get the close rounds, right? Any of the close rounds are going to go to Kell Brook, right? Arguably, should they go to Kell Brook anyway since he's the champion? I don't know. Is that a bias that, I'm willing to engage on my channel? I'm not sure yet. I'm going to go ahead and start off this round, though, just watching. We're going to do the first round of Errol Spence. Sorry about that, guys. The first round of Errol Spence versus Chris Algieri, and look at his main form of offense. And then we're going to look at first round of Kell Brook and look at his main source of offense. And then I'll kind of give you a breakdown of who I'm choosing and why. But the intangibles for Errol Spence in favor of Kell Brook, rather, the fact that it's in the UK means that he's going to get the close rounds, right? Maybe he should because he's the champion. Maybe the close rounds should just be scored 10-10, right? Maybe you should actually have to put a concerted effort to win a round. I don't know. Who knows, right? But the way that things work in boxing right now, the likelihood that the close rounds go to Kell Brook is very high. What can you do about that? He's choosing to fight in Sheffield or I don't know where they're fighting, man. I'm just going to watch the fight. But in the UK, they're going to fight in the UK. So he's going to be giving away all the close rounds by being there. That doesn't have anything to do with skill, right? But it's one of the things that you're going to take into consideration when betting or when doing other things, when it matters, right? But what we're going to talk about are boxing skills. And so far, also in this round, I don't know if Errol Spence has landed any like clean shots or whatever, but we're going to kind of address the ones that he does. But talking about boxing skills, pure boxing skills, one of the things that I want to talk about in this video is neither one of these fighters have like the greatest defense, right? I do give the edge for defense to Brook. I think that he has a better clinch. He knows how to close the distance to stop himself from taking punishment. Right here, Errol Spence, lead foot dominance, lands a body shot, and then catches him right there when he's near the ropes. But going back to what I was saying, I think I give the edge in defense to Kell Brook. Here he is getting him on the ropes and then landing some holding and hitting punches, but he does land some clean shots against the ropes. But I give the edge to Kell Brook for defense. I think that Errol Spence has better speed, just slightly, but I think the fact that he kind of explodes out of his guard and sometimes kind of telegraphs his punches in that manner mean that they're going to be easier for Brook to pick up on, and that'll kind of negate the speed advantage. However, I do think that punching in combination, like if they get into like really gritty exchanges, I think those exchanges are going to favor Errol Spence because of that slight speed advantage, and because once they're punching in combination, you're not exploding out of your guard anymore. You're already in punching position. You've already closed the distance. So I give that kind of edge to Errol Spence, but I think that Kell Brook's going to try to make the fight a very Mayweather-esque fight, where he tries to keep it on the outside, pot shot, even though that's not Mayweather style, anymore. It's a lot of what people thought his style was, like when he fought Carlos Baldomir, like that kind of style. I think that's kind of what Kell Brook's going to be looking to do: land one shot and tie up, land one shot and get out, whether it be like a counter hook or a straight right hand or whatever. Whereas Errol Spence is going to be looking to throw lots of punches and combinations. And I think that the one shot at a time style fighting is going to massively favor Kell Brook, and the combination style punching is going to massively favor Errol Spence. Now, as far as that, here he is getting lead foot dominance, landing a body shot. Then that's some of the cleanest shots that he's landed all around. Here he is, clean shots again off of lead foot dominance. And those have been the best punches that he's landed in the round. Most of his offense has come off of that or getting his opponent on the ropes. Now back to the breakdown. I think that, let's see, power, I give the edge in power to Spence, even though, well, no, not even though anything. I just give it to him. But I think that he's not as good at landing shots as Kell Brook is, right? So during the course of this round, the only real offense that we saw Errol Spence land was off of lead foot dominance. He didn't really land anything on the outside. And he did get some shots while he was on the ropes before they wound up clinching, and he wound up getting that head control on Algieri. So showing, this is kind of what I mean by like limited offense, just in the way that he sets his punches up. He's fast, he punches hard, but the avenues that he has for attack are not as broad as Kell Brook's. So now we're going to go ahead and look at some of Kell Brook's round against Frankie Gavin. And kind of what I want to highlight here is that in that round, Errol Spence, because of his main goal was to establish lead foot dominance, that was his main source of offense. So if Kell Brook can stop him from getting lead foot dominance, it's going to limit Errol Spence's offensive output by a lot. And one thing that I wanted to highlight here is that Kell Brook doesn't have that same problem. Here Kell Brook is, just a few seconds into the fight, throwing straight right hands, shifting forward, landing a hook or like a jab on the outside. But he doesn't need lead foot dominance to land his punches, and I think that he's going to have a little bit easier of a time landing his shots. Again, right hands, and the type of offense that he looks to set up against southpaws, I think is going to be easier for him to set up than Errol Spence is. And that's all that I mean by that. They both have great offensive work. Errol Spence, when he does get lead foot dominance, he's going to put a hurting on Kell Brook for sure. That's going to be a very dangerous spot for Kell Brook to be in, because that left hand is so fast and he hits so hard with it. When he does establish lead foot dominance, he's going to be able to catch Kell Brook. But one of the things that I think Kell Brook is going to do really well is making Errol Spence pay for establishing lead foot dominance. He likes to counter. He likes to throw the left hook over the jab when his opponent comes in. I'm not sure if you get to see too much of that in this round, but I think that he's going to have a lot of avenues to stop Errol Spence from establishing lead foot dominance, taking away his main source of offense. Whereas I think that things like this, right, getting here and kind of leaning in, showing the right hand and catching him with the right hand are going to be a great source of offense for Kell Brook. Also, you can kind of see how after they get into this exchange, Frankie Gavin lands a body shot, and then he lands that quick left hook to the face of Kell Brook. So Kell Brook does have some openings when he's doing this. But I think that I think that for the most part, Kell Brook's offense is going to be easier to land than Errol Spence's because he doesn't rely on that lead foot dominance. I do want to show another clip that I have, and it's really interesting. I just started doing a film study on Guillermo Rigondeaux, and he's widely regarded as the best fighter in his division, I guess. People really like him, and so I wanted to do a film study grading the fighter on him. And I have been kind of putting this video off because I didn't know how to explain adequately why I think that Kell Brook is going to be able to neutralize Errol Spence's offense because of the counterpunching, and because of the way that he tries to establish lead foot dominance to set up most of his offense. Lines up really well for Kell Brook's counterpunching. But we're just going to go ahead and get into that a little bit. I'm going to show some of the things. And now, I think it's pretty safe to say that people would regard Guillermo Rigondeaux as a better fighter than Errol Spence. I think that's true. If it's not even true, most people would say that Guillermo Rigondeaux is not much worse than Errol Spence, right? Even the ones that say he's a better fighter. But I think most of the general population would say that, or the boxing public would say that Rigondeaux is a better fighter than Errol Spence. And I also think that most people would say that Kell Brook is a better fighter than Nonito Donaire. But I kind of wanted to highlight some things that I found in this film study really interesting. Let's put it in slow-mo right here. So they touch gloves, showing him the jab, right? High-level stuff from Mr. Rigondeaux. He shows him a jab, establishes lead foot dominance, right? Throws a straight left to the body, which Nonito Donaire gets his glove in front of. He's able to block it, and then counters him with the left hook. I think that left hook barely misses, but he does throw it. He does set that up, and I think that's, although Kell Brook's not going to be doing it like this, he's going to be countering the jab and hooking. I just want to point out the fact that in the first round of this fight, I should have said this part first. In the first round of this fight, Guillermo Rigondeaux was extremely aggressive, pushing forward. But in the second round, he was much less aggressive, and I think so far I attribute that to Guillermo Rigondeaux being countered when he would set up lead foot dominance. So here he is. He shows him. He flashes him the jab. Doesn't care about how he's going to react to it. Throws the straight left while he establishes lead foot dominance. Throws the straight left, and Donaire tries to catch him with the left hook counter again. So let's go ahead and watch that just in slow-mo, not real time, but boom, and almost catches him with that counter right there. Now we're going to go ahead and look at another instance. I mean, I know you guys probably get it. But in this first round, he was really active. Rigondeaux was. Again, shows him the jab, boom, ducks down, shows him starts throwing the left hand. Nonito Donaire gets a piece of it. Might hit him in the body, but he catches him with that left hook, right? Getting the timing of his counters down pretty well. And now again, shows him the jab, the hooking kind of one, flashes the jab, doesn't pay attention to how Nonito is going to react to it. I think he catches him with that straight left too, but then he also eats a left hook on the top of his head. It doesn't catch him super cleanly, but remember, that's not the point, right? He's got this really great technique. Oh, it looks like he completely misses him, actually. But he's got this really great technique to counter him, right? And he shows him the counter so many times. But I'm going to go ahead and play the next round of this fight. I'm not going to break it down too much, but I'm going to play it while I'm talking. Rigondeaux gets much more defensive in this round after realizing that Nonito Donaire is trying to counter him when he establishes lead foot dominance. And the parallel to this and the Algieri Spence fight is that Errol Spence mostly landed his offense off of the lead foot dominance, and here you can see the product of taking lead foot dominance away from your opponent is but limiting the avenues of offense that they're comfortable landing against you or attempting. As you see right here, Rigondeaux is kind of counterpunching for the first minute. He hasn't even attempted to get lead foot dominance or to lead the fight at all, because he knows Donaire is trying to counter him. And that's what I mean by if Kell Brook can take away lead foot dominance from him, he'll have an easier time landing his offense, because his offense is not predicated off of being in superior position, right? And he kind of hides his punches a little bit better than Errol Spence. So I kind of think that because of that fact, that Kell Brook's offense is easier for him to land, the kind of offense that he attempts to employ against southpaws is easier than Errol Spence's, and it's seemingly less dangerous. He's going to have a better time setting up his offense than Errol Spence when he starts to counter him, either with the straight right or with the left hook over the feinted jab. There's the first instance right here in the round where he tries to establish lead foot dominance. It winds up being a low blow, and he still almost gets countered, but nowhere near as aggressive now, because he knows his opponent's trying to counter him. And even though Donaire didn't actually catch him with any counters really in the first round, he was able to limit his punches, his punch output, and his offensive output. The interesting thing about that is, I think that if Kell Brook is, and that's why I give him the advantage. I'm leaning towards Kell Brook because of these little factors. Now, in long exchanges, I favor Errol Spence, but I think that Kell Brook's going to be able to mitigate a lot of the exchanges with the clinch and the head control that he does show, and closing the gap when he throws a right hand and he switches to southpaw to body up with his opponent. I think that he's got the more natural or the more seasoned responses to the kind of offense that Errol Spence has, and I think that Errol Spence is going to be a little more vulnerable to the kinds of offenses that Kell Brook poses. As you see in some of Errol Spence's fights, he doesn't have a lot of head movement when he's not punching, and I think that's going to cause him to. It's going to make Kell Brook's going to have an easier time scoring, right? Now, because of that, if it goes the way that I think it's kind of going to go, I think that there is a chance that Errol Spence can catch Kell Brook early, and if he doesn't knock him out, then he, while Kell Brook is trying to get his timing, and if he doesn't knock him out, I think that Kell Brook will be able to, get up off the canvas and kind of learn from his little mistake that he makes and fight a little more of a measured fight, and pull away on the cards. But that also might not happen. But I think that initially getting the speed and the timing of Errol Spence might cause some problems early in the fight for Kell Brook, but I think once he kind of gets used to it, he might start pulling away on the cards, and at that point Errol Spence is going to have to eat those counters, and he's going to have to push through. Even if he gets hit, he's going to have to land return fire, and that is something that he's shown that he's capable of doing. But just for these simple reasons, I'm kind of leaning towards Kell Brook. As you see in this round that I showed you, the second round, Rigondeaux doesn't really move back to that offense in spite of the success that he was having in the first round, because he knows the counters are coming. And I think that the rounds could go in a similar fashion because Kell Brook likes to counterpunch so much, and he's got reasonable answers to Errol Spence's offense. Anyway, I'm leaning like I said, I'm leaning towards Kell Brook, but I would not be surprised in the least if Errol Spence is able to kind of power through the counters and catch Kell Brook when he's punching in combination. I think that that's going to be a big key for Errol Spence, is not throwing one punch at a time, but to throw in combination to try and catch him with a shot that he's out of position to defend. Anyway, that's my official prediction. I'm glad I finally found a way to demonstrate the point that I'm making. I hope it came across well. But if not, I'm sure I'll hear a bunch of crazy shit in the comments, and I look forward to hearing it and reading it. But anyway, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think. And be prepared for my next video series, which is going to be grading a fighter, Guillermo Rigondeaux. All right, thanks, guys.